To order the Tobacco Settlement Agreement Oversight Committee meeting for November, and glad to have everybody here today. I'll ask the Secretary to call the roll.
Senator Rocky Adams, Senator Parrott, Senator Webb, Senator Westerfield, Representative Brown, Representative King,
Present.
Representative Pratt, Representative Reed,
Here.
Representative Roberts,
Here.
Co-Chair Hornback,
Here.
and Co-Chair Dossett.
Present.
We do have a quorum. Any members got any guests they want to introduce? I was going to introduce Julie Rocky Adams as a guest. I thought she was a guest, but then I looked and they called her name because she's been on the committee for a while, and I don't think I've ever seen her here before. So it's always a pleasure to have a member of my leadership here. Senator Parrott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. She's not a guest, but it's my daughter. But she's a regular at every committee meeting with me because she loves this place. I don't know why, but she has come to me with every. Lisa doesn't want to come, so Kristen comes with me. So, but Kristen, I thank you for I don't know why you did it either, but I just want to recognize you. So, thank you.
Okay, we'll move forward with the meeting, and first item on the agenda is Brian and Bill. If you all would like to come up and give us a report. Oh, we need to approve the minutes, excuse me, before you all come up. Do you have a motion on the minutes? Second. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Now, Brian and Bill, if you all would come forward. Always enjoy the reports on how you all are investing our money from the tobacco settlement. It's a program that just has done outstanding things for the state of Kentucky. So thank you all, Bill, especially you, for your time that you've been there and everything. It's amazing what this program has done for the state of Kentucky. So if you all would introduce yourself for the record, you may proceed.
All right. Thank you, Senator Hornback. Brian Lacefield, Executive Director of the Kentucky Office of Ag Policy. And I appreciate those comments. That was a good commercial. That sounds often like some of my speeches do. And I regret missing you all last month. I was actually down in Trigg County for their ham breakfast, speaking and talking about the impact these funds in that county. And that county is actually an interesting one. We see actually more tobacco is raised in Trigg County than it was when the master settlement was passed. That does not happen when I give that talk in other places. But no, you all were in good hands with Deputy Executive Director Bill McCloskey, and Senator, appreciate the kind words on Bill. He truly is the heart of this organization, has been there since day one, and doesn't ever a day go by I'm not asking him a question about have we ever done it this way or what about that, and probably has reeled me in a few times with things he's noticed didn't work that we've been able to. And then also know last month you had the FSA team here with Director Schmore and Angela Watson, state specialist. They're talking about the drought, and it's good to have my former colleagues there, and I'm proud Angela was one I brought to the state office. So I was proud when I went back and rewatched her testimony of what he did or what they both shared with you. So I'll spare you all the September highlights. Bill plugged those since I didn't see you, and just hit a few of the things we've done on the road in October. One I want to highlight is a great project at my alma mater, Western Kentucky University. We had a project that we funded last year, and it's a national project. It's the Smart Holstein dairy facility there that's going to be a showcase, and it is operational now. In fact, they're having a field day on Monday and bringing in, I think, 30 different dairy-related businesses that will be participating in the field day. But the day I was down there last month was actually to celebrate the first in Kentucky, our Farm to Campus initiative, to where we have products coming from Western's farm that are actually being served in the food services on campus. And what's unique here is this not just your produce coming from the greenhouses or their actual production, but this includes products from their creamery, coming from the dairy, and then also meat processing. So there will actually be meat that's coming off the farm that is being served now on campus, and they're utilizing Hampton Meats, their Representative Dossett there in our hometown, and is one of the recipients of our meat processing project that we've had across the state. This was a big event there. Had President Caboni, and then the department head, Dr. DeGraves, and then director of the Western Farm, Dr. Woosley, who was actually a classmate of mine many years ago at Western, and enjoyed that opportunity and be a part of it. Stayed on with my university theme for that day and went down further west Kentucky for a stakeholders meeting with the University of Kentucky, talking about the Center for Grain and Forage Excellence and the rebuild, and the positive news we have coming back there that we will have the proceeds to do like for like with their insurance. So be a process seeing that come back, but it'll be fantastic when it does. And that also wanted to share with you all KCARD, the Kentucky Center for Ag and Rural Development, one of our recipients and also one of our biggest partners. We rely on the services of that team with so many of our grant and loan recipients that we work with. And their executive director, Alita Botts, is stepping away, so we've been under search for a new executive director, and this was named this past, I guess, in October, with Brent Lackey, who has been a long-time employee with KCARD, is now stepping into the leadership roles. And Representative Dossett, that's another Christian County native there that coming into a leadership role now over in Pulaski County, but excited to work with Brent. I've worked with him in different roles throughout my career. One of the big projects that we funded in two different times that I continue to see significant impact in the state is our Kentucky Ag Leadership Program. This historically had been the Philip Morris Leadership Program, moved under the University of Kentucky and administered initially with grants subject to matching funds with ag development funds. 12 years ago was a participant in this program and continue to be a big supporter. During the years when Director Beeler was here, he and I worked together for a push to extend the funding on this with ag development because we were turning away too many quality applicants. This program had run on a 3-year cycle, 2 years of class, a year pause to build up funds, and then run again. We're now able to run this on a 2-year cycle, so we're always have a class going. And they were in West Kentucky this past month for their tour, and I was able to moderate a leadership panel down there, and was really a great opportunity. But we also, the big part of this is not just the class and what you learn in that class period, but it's also interacting with the alumni within our state who participate in this, and being plugged in really can expand somebody's Rolodex and getting involved in other things. But beyond that is with other states. And we had a group of alumni from Idaho that were in town, and they spent a week touring Kentucky, literally going across the state, and was able to speak with them. And they shattered my stereotype. Senator Parrott, we only had one potato farmer out of the whole group of 30. So now I told them they would have as much trouble finding a tobacco farmer now as we have less than 1,000 in Kentucky. Last meeting of significance for October was down with the Breathitt Veterinary Center for their advisory board, and your colleague Representative Thomas was there for the evening with us to look at what we're seeing there. And one of the takeaways, they're actually doing some more testing on our meat processing. Several of our slaughterhouses that we're financing or have ag development funds in are utilizing for actually getting their testing done there for customer request. And this is offsetting some of the decline that we've seen from what they've done with hemp testing in prior years. So busy. Those were just some other events on top of what we normally do with the county councils, our site visits, compliance, and regular board meetings. And speaking of the board meetings, we put in your packet the agenda, and I think Bill talked about it last month when he was here, of our next joint board meeting, which will be next week. Twice a year, we try to get both Ag Finance and Ag Development boards together so we can showcase a lot of projects that both are involved in, and then also getting that synergy of having both of your boards together. I'm blessed with 28 fantastic board board seats, 27 board members fill those. We have one member that serves on both ag development and ag finance as the link between the two. And getting in a room with that group is always a learning experience. But just real quick, want to step through the visits that we're doing and highlight for your benefit kind of a look back at a couple of the projects that we've done. Our first stop is going to be the Continental Refining Company, which this is a new soybean extruder for biodiesel that is coming online. We're planning, they're taking soybeans, there will be some of the, I guess, folks have contracts to deliver this year, so there will be some of the 2022 crop processed there, adding another terminal market to Kentucky, which I think is a benefit to every bushel of soybean that's grown, as if its last stop is here in Kentucky. And the buy-in from this one, there were 16 counties put county money into this for $195,000, and then this was matched by state funds. But I really like when I see multiple counties coming together for these regional projects. Our next stop is going to be the Pulaski County High School for their greenhouse. This was one of those questions I was pulling out of Bill today. How many greenhouses have we done? We feel confident between middle school and high school greenhouses across the state, there have been over 60 with ag development funds. And that, when you're looking at, for sure, the barriers to entry to agriculture and the capital intensive nature of this business, horticulture is one where we're able to see folks get in at a smaller scale, and this is a fantastic opportunity for getting our middle and high school students involved in their through their FFA projects. Going on down the road to Summit Meats Processing. This is another regional USDA and custom meat processing plant that has had input from ag development funds with our meat processing program. And then we're going back to the farmers market in downtown Somerset, and this one is over 75 farmers markets that we have had investment in across the state. I know there's at least 75, and those have largely been funded by state dollars. We always have some county funds put in, but the majority of the 50%, up to 50%, or the $250 that we'll do comes from state funds as we're looking to create that market. We'll be stopping after that with the Conservation District, and that stop is twofold. One, they administer the shared use equipment program, and Pulaski County is a very large and diverse county. Senator Hornback, I would probably think, if I was going back to my NAP USDA days and looking at differing products, your county, Shelby, and Pulaski may be our two most diverse counties in Kentucky. Somebody can fact check me on that, but I'm going to go with that until I get something else. It's anecdotal, but I believe Pulaski and Shelby would be. But they administer that. But also, it's just a stop to tie in with our conservation districts. Outside of our University of Kentucky and Kentucky State University Extension programs, our conservation districts are our biggest partner in delivering our programs, especially the county programs across the state. Next stop will be to K&S Incorporated. This is a custom mineral and vitamin livestock feed business. It's actually owned by one of our board members, Michael Peterson, and they were a recipient of the Kentucky Ag Finance through our loan program when they moved the location there to Pulaski County. Our last tour stop is Haney's Appledale Farm, and while the Haney family not recipients of any ag development dollars for any projects, they are a showcase of agritourism, and their fried apple pies are unrivaled. So that will be where our afternoon stack is, and to be there with the Haneys. I know this was gone over last time, but wanted to go over those stops with you to showcase what we've done, but also extend an invitation to each member of this committee and or the staff to join for any part of this. If you're in the area and can make schedules work, just let us know. We would be honored to have any of you join us with that. All right, the last thing I want to talk about is we've been putting in our ag finance loans. That's been an update we've started included. And so you have the list of the counties and then the differing loan programs that we funded. Point out we did ag infrastructure, which I shared with you a couple of months ago. We have increased the total matching dollars that we're doing up to $250,000. This had been $100,000 for a number of years, but we'll again go up to 50% of the project or $250,000 being our limits. Several of our beginning farmer loans that we had. And those, again, to point out, those can be for purchasing of a farm operation or a going concern or buying a first farm. And then our diversification loan program is one with an ag business tilt. And I always look at the total amount we approved, and that goes out in the press release, over $1 million. But I always like looking at that total project cost, because this is what we were a part of. And oftentimes these loans wouldn't have been made without our subordinate security position and our lower interest impacting cash flow. So over $1 million invested in from ag development in loans that will be coming back into the portfolio to be loaned back out again. For a total capital investment in Kentucky of almost $4.5 million for the month. And Bill and I were just visiting this morning as we were looking over our notes before this, and I live and died by the 10-year Treasury all my banking days. That's tied largely to the cost of funds. And just looking, just from this year, January, our 10-year Treasury was 1.6%. Today it was 4.1, with a high of 4.25 so far we've seen in 22. You have to go back to 08 before we've seen a 10-year Treasury at that level. And so you look at what we have looked at for this cost of capital. We talk about these costs going up, but this cost of capital on a farmer's enterprise budget is one of the biggest costs. And to see this more than double in our long-term rates, a lot of our long-term rates were coming in from the participating lender side between about 4.5 on average about a year ago, and now we're starting to see some in the 9s. So we've seen this cost of capital going up. So just want to make you aware of that. I know you all are hearing it from your constituents, but we're seeing it every month in these loans that are coming in, and we do continue to see increased interest in multiple of our programs, and we think we will continue from both the standpoint of saving the borrower money with their combined cost of funds, but also improving that cash flow that may be necessary to actually get the deal approved. So that's my update. I'll conclude and let Bill go through some of the projects that we funded last month.
Okay, we'll move on to page 3 and report to you the board action at the October 21st Ag Development Board meeting. So again, page 3, update on the programs that were funded, starting with the CAPE program, County Agriculture Investment Program. You can see 4 out of the 5 entities are conservation districts, that Brian mentioned earlier, are the entities that are most likely to be administering, managing the CAPE program in the counties across the state. So that was a little over $1 million. The Deceased Farm Animal Removal Program, that's Scott County and Spencer County, approved for $21,000. The Next Generation Farmer, or the Next Gen program, this targets 18 to 40-year-old beginning farmers for $55,000 in Scott and Hardin County, Senator Parrott. And then under shared use equipment, Clark County was approved for $4,425 in county money to purchase a sprayer, and they rent that out to the farmers in Clark County. Washington County was approved for $9,500 for a no-till drill. So Representative King, that's probably the most popular shared use piece of equipment that is purchased with county ag development funds. And then back to Hardin County, $10,000 for their youth program. Going on to page 4, we have one amendment in Jessamine County to add $90,000 to the $100,000 currently being administered as a cost share program under the CAPE program, County Agriculture Investment Program. And then page 5, update on the on-farm incentives program. So farmers that are making investment in equipment or technology are eligible for state funds up to $10,150. To be eligible, obviously the application process, they have to show that there's going to be energy efficiency as a result of the investment. and that has to be evaluated by a professional engineer or certified energy manager. As part of our technical scoring committee, we utilized University of Kentucky, Dr. Mike Montross at the Bioengineering Department. He's on the committee. Alan Goebel with the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service. Scott Moss with USDA Rural Development are part of the technical group that helps us evaluate these applications. So you can see Berrien County, that project is a poultry operation upgrading their fans. The second one is Davis County. That's going to be a solar panel system put in over $300,000, so we're just a small part of that. And then the Graves County is upgrading their heater system on the poultry operation, and then Owsley County is a solar system that helps replace their solar panels that will help them replace what right now they're using is a gasoline powered energy source. So this will help in their horticulture operation to help offset those costs. That's an update on the energy program. Going to page 6, we'll start reporting to you on the projects we have in Graves County. Robert Brown is requesting $250,000 state funds to build a meat processing facility. He is going to sell, Senator Webb, he's going to sell his poultry operation and get into the meat processing. So he's got a poultry operation paid for. So he's decided to make a career change or enterprise change into meat processing in Graves County. So it's been approved for $250,000 in state funds and $5,780 in Graves County to establish a meat processing facility. And he's been doing it on the side, so he's got some experience with working in the industry and just decided this is what he wants to do going forward. So that'll bring us a total of over 40 meat processors of the 80 we've identified in the state, and a total over $7 million helping invest in meat processors, decrease the harvest capacity, as we see, especially in the COVID pandemic, the demand from consumers to buy more local product, and the demand still continues to be at a high level, such that there's continued to be that demand for more meat processors, although it's slowed down considerably what we've reported to you in the past. On page 7, we've got a Berrien County projects, Caliente Therapy LLC. This is an equine rehabilitation project. Senator Webb made a request to Berrien County when they committed about $5,000 to the project. The board looked at this and considered this a project that primarily benefit the individual, and supported it with just county money only. They would be eligible for the Ag Finance Corporation loan program as well. Senator Webb.
Senator Webb.
I was just wondering who is doing this, and if they're affiliated with. I pay some vet bills in Berrien County, so if they're affiliated with a veterinary professional or.
It's a young lady that graduated from Murray, grew up in the industry. She's supporting her grandparents are supporting her on this project, but I'm not aware that they're associated with any veterinarian clinic. But the plan is to work with veterinarian clinics that may refer horses or equine to this rehabilitation business.
What are their names? Do you know?
Well, the grandparents are listed on here, Rick and Larry
okay.
Berry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
All right, next is page 8, and Brian's going to report this one.
I do have one more to go over. We're excited about getting a large dairy coming to Kentucky. With this request was originally applied from the Ag Development Board, $5 million as part of a $50 million overall project that has been in the works for some time to bring a large dairy to Kentucky. This had 5,000 head dairy. It's going to increase over 10% now. Our dairy cows in Kentucky going to go from 45,000 to 50,000. The Kentucky Economic Development Cabinet approved $2.5 million in tax incentives that they'll be able to earn over a 15-year period, and the Ag Development Board wanted to work and kind of tie in with the Economic Development Cabinet and did another $2.5 million, but did this one as a participation loan. Again, it's to a private individual, like Bill was referencing on the other project, and wanted to structure this more under the loan side. And they're doing the loan and then transferring it over to Kentucky Ag Finance. So the repayment will come back in and be available to be loaned out to other farmers. And this would be under a program that any dairy that we have in Kentucky would be eligible for the same opportunity. We're looking at this as considering them like that end user I was talking about earlier of the soybean extruder. They're going to be the end user of a lot of forages and silage, and this will have to come from Kentucky farmers on doing this. Looking at buying $29 million worth of produce to feed each of these animals and doing that. So that was the way the Ag Development Board structured this. It'll be a participation loan with their primary lender under the normal terms that would be available with that. But I think it's a great example of two Kentucky state agencies working together to attract something that's going to have significant economic impact in both agriculture and in our rural economy. And it's been an objective of the Kentucky Dairy Development Council, which is an agency that we fund with ag development dollars. So you're seeing a compounded benefit of your investment going through the trade association and their work in bringing this in. And I want to personally and publicly compliment Executive Director H. Barlow for his work in doing this. I believe that this truly will be an instance where you're seeing a rising tide lifting all boats, and this is going to have a positive impact on Kentucky agriculture as well as the dairy industry.
Brian, if I might, just a couple questions on that. I understand this is a dairy from California.
They actually have multiple dairies, Senator. They have Wisconsin, California, and in Texas. And in Texas and in California facing significant challenges with water, high cost of that in California and availability of it in Texas. This is actually, they're going to relocate the herd from Texas that is going to come to Kentucky. So they'll still be operational and actually keep the location the way we understand it throughout the application process, keeping the operation in Texas, but that's going to be for their heifer development, and then we'll be actually milking in Kentucky.
And I know in talking to H. Barlow with dairy development, there's other dairies because of those same issues that are looking at locating somewhere further to the east, where mainly the water availability is better. And Kentucky wants to be that location that they look at, not Tennessee, not Indiana or Wisconsin or any place. We'd like for Kentucky to be that place because we have a shortage of milk. Is it the intent of the board, do you think, that for any larger dairy to do this same type of project with them, this funding source?
Well, I think so, Senator. I think, and several of you were in the Joint Ag Committee where Director Barlow presented, and I would encourage you, if you get time on a future agenda, to put him on to give that update, because I think not just with dairy, we've got so many things in Kentucky to sell. Where we're located, the water we have, the regulatory freedom that we've got in this state is just an untapped resource that I believe is going to continue to see other people want to be in Kentucky. And I think that's the case with dairy, as we've seen with the shipping and the people, and with what we have with abundant forages and abundant water that we can support these dairy. The debate within the committee process on how to structure this was always thought with how we're going to replicate this, and that's why I want to make sure clear everybody understands any Kentucky dairy would have been able to apply for this the same process. Any other one will come as well, but will be vetted. I think there may have been a little more incentive to the first one that's kind of trying this to see now whether it would be funded at the same level and the same impact. That would be merited, I guess, go through the committee process. But the short answer is yes, we would be willing to work with many others coming to the state.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Senator Webb.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I had the opportunity to meet with these guys in Louisville during the state fair when they were here and we were trying to lure them in. And then so I went home and did some due diligence too. So I'm really glad to see the cooperation between these agencies work together in getting this, because I think for Fulton County and for all of Kentucky, it's the real deal. And I'm very encouraged by them and their interest. And, that I sat and talked about why they wanted to come here and all those things. And yeah, I'm really happy that y'all ended up with this project. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Any other questions? Go ahead, Bill.
All right, we'll go to page 9. Give you an update on Paris Independent Schools was approved for $25,000 in county funds, county ag development funds, to support a greenhouse project estimated to cost $54,151. Again, that brings us over 50 greenhouses at the middle and high school level that have been supported with ag development funds.
Well, it's 60.
60 over.
We need to be consistent, so we're going to go with 60 until Bill tells me it's 50.
And I think that gives a youth opportunity to be exposed to that. And probably in our generation, Senator Hornback, you looked at working in the tobacco fields. Now, maybe we're going to look at youth getting exposed to the horticulture industry, and this is the way to do it. As we see some of these mega greenhouses being introduced here in Kentucky, they're going to be looking for a labor force that's got some horticulture experience, and these greenhouses funded at the high school and middle school level could be potential labor force for those greenhouses. Moving on to page 10, we've got the Pulaski County Farm Bureau was approved for $2,512 to purchase grain rescue extraction kits. I think this brings us to about 15 that we've supported here in the state with county funds. I think Representative Reed, you're very familiar with it, and this is one of the projects we hope the equipment never gets used, but it's there for the safety of our Kentucky farmers. Next, going to page 11. So the University of Kentucky Research Foundation requested some funds to help support what they call a Kentucky Value Chain Collaborative effort, working with farmers, processors, distributors, and buyers in Kentucky to move more product to wholesalers and distributors. And this will be to support 3 full-time value chain coordinators for 2 years to work in 3 regions of the state. Obviously, we look at Kentucky's west, central, and east part. And to set this up, I think the investment we've had over 20 years is about diversifying away from tobacco into other enterprises, and food production obviously is the emphasis of a lot of our farmers are looking to sell directly to consumers, but don't have a lot of history. You don't have that multi-generation transfer of knowledge of, say, raising tobacco as you would maybe growing strawberries, growing produce, growing ornamental type commodities. And the Ag Development Board has, for 20 years, has looked at how we can provide infrastructure and technical support. Because when you think about how we've marketed a lot of our traditional commodities, livestock, Representative King, you take them down to the stockyards. If you're a dairy producer, the co-op comes by and picks up your milk. Senator Parrott, every 2 days. If you're a grain producer, you take it down to the elevator. But if you're growing produce, you've got to figure out how you're going to connect with the consumer, whether it's at a farmer's market or with a distributor like Creation Garden. So as I was looking through the list of investments we've made, from cost share programs, the CAPE program, to Kentucky Small Scale Grant Program, to infrastructure, which can be farmers markets we've talked about. It can be distributors like Creation Gardens. The marketing side is Kentucky Proud. We're all familiar with the Kentucky Proud brand and label that helps market products to consumers. And then we've got the technical support we've invested in using these funds that you all support. From KCARD, Kentucky Center for Agricultural Rural Development that you mentioned, Brian, the Horticulture Council that provides technical support to go out and work with farmers that are landowners looking to get into production of these type of commodities. Grow Appalachia is another entity out there that works with, especially they specialize in high tunnel production. So this investment that the board is supporting helps tie all that together. And in the past, the board has funded two positions like this at the Jefferson County Metro Government and Fayette County Metro Government. Those positions are no longer funded, so this is going to be somewhat replacing those positions and trying to tie this produce production all together, linking our farmers to consumers. So just to give you a little history on how that's all coming together. And again, Senator Hornback, we're still 20 years later working on developing these direct-to-consumer marketing programs. And then moving on to page 12, we have another meat processor that had some equipment damaged in the flood in eastern Kentucky. They made a request to the Breathitt County Agricultural Development Council, and they're supporting his purchase of his equipment to replace damaged equipment and be able to get the business up and operational. So again, $12,184 in Breathitt County funds. And so that concludes our project update, and then we've got the press releases on the last couple of pages.
Question.
Senator Webb.
I want to go back to the UK positions, and notwithstanding the need, I understand we probably should have done it 20 years ago, but we didn't have all the producers and everything in place. So, not the need, but when we negotiated House Bill 611, there was a concern about institutional money grabs and the benefit that in actual reality and the parity for regional impact. Of course, you know that I've always been concerned about the eastern Kentucky, and I just would ask that we get once this is set up, that maybe Mr. Chairman, we would have them come in and explain how it's set up, the regions that everybody's going to cover, contact information, and then report to us. I mean, this is quite a bit of money. And I'm not saying we don't need it. I'm not saying they won't do a good job. But I think with the spirit and intent of House Bill 611, this committee needs to know what's going on there and who they're, how it's going. Because it, having been there and worried about that and seeing, sometimes East Kentucky not fully participating, and sometimes that's our fault. But I just would ask that once it's set up, that they come and report to the committee, and then that we have reporting on how the money's spent, and we might want to do it again, or we might want to help them continue, but that would be my ask at this time, and I fully support it. Don't get me wrong, but that'd be my ask, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
We'd be glad to work with the recipients and have that done. I think it'd be very beneficial.
I have to refer to my chairman to do that for next year. Make sure you get that done.
I will be glad.
I was eyeing Dawson anyway. There you go.
Bill, thank you. Anybody else got any questions? Bill and Brian, appreciate you all being here every month and reporting to us, and I appreciate the good work that you all do throughout the month. Our next presenter today is from the Early Childhood Development. And I think Paula and Andrea, you got others with you?
I do have Elizabeth Hoagland with us to do.
Well, if whoever would like to come up and present, if you all would. Okay, introduce yourself for the record. And is your mic on?
It's green.
Okay.
All right. I'm Paula Goff, and still can't hear.
Yeah, try it one more time. There we go.
There you go.
I'm Paula Goff. I'm the branch manager for early childhood development at the Department for Public Health. And thank you very much for wanting to know about our programs that are funded through with tobacco funds. Let's see. The first one I'm going to talk about is our HANDS program, the Health Access Nurturing Development Services. This program has been around since 2000 as a pilot and has expanded over the years to that we serve, statewide, all counties, primarily through public health departments, but there are a couple of contracted entities. And this program has really been a hallmark for the state of Kentucky. It is nationally recognized as an evidence-based program, which means the goals that were set out for HANDS to accomplish have in fact been met by this program. And we're really looking for, better outcomes for both the mother and the child, and looking at how we can best optimize growth and development, and how we can have children in safe homes. We want to support family self-sufficiency. And we're really looking at a way that we can build Kentucky's capacity to address current issues without delay. That we have, in fact, staff out there who can help families right from day one. HANDS is a multi-funded program, but the Master Tobacco Settlement Funds are the ones that started this program, and they are the ones that are still a keystone piece of the program. We currently use our tobacco funds to match Medicaid. That's the primary use of them. And then there's about 10% that is left that is for non-Medicaid covered families. We also get we generate reimbursement through Medicaid. We have some general revenue dollars. Those dollars are also used for match for Medicaid. And then we also now have a maternal, infant, early childhood home visiting grant, or federal dollars. So it is a program that has multiple streams of funding, which helps us to expand the service that we have for families. In FY22, we served over 5,000 families through the support of the tobacco funds. Those families, those particular families, are what we call prima gravida. These are mothers who are in the prenatal stage, so the baby hasn't been born yet, and those who have only one, this is their first child. And so the tobacco funds, that was the original use of those funds, and that continues to this day to use that and help support those families. We are really critical. We try to find the prenatal moms that we can get into the program, because what research shows is the earlier you're able to support them, the better off your outcomes are going to be. The HANDS program, as I said, is one of the probably most loved programs in my branch. It is very popular with the constituents who use it and the clients and the health departments. So we really are very proud of the efforts that our staff and the field staff do to make it a good program. Early childhood mental health is another one of our programs that receive tobacco funding. These funds, the original intent was to build the capacity in the state of Kentucky to work with infants through 5-year-olds and their families who have challenging emotional issues, challenging behaviors, mental health issues within the family, to really try to optimize social development and mental health in young children. So we work closely with the comprehensive mental health centers across the state. We have specialists at each one of them who are specifically trained in working with this age group. They do a variety of services for us. They do a lot of consulting and training, primarily with child-serving agencies. They work a lot with child care, with the state-funded preschool program, with small community programs for children and their families, like a Mommy's Me program. They do evaluations and assessments on children who are referred to the Comprehensive Mental Health Center, as well as provide therapeutic services to those families who choose those services. So they tend to be a pretty busy group. They've served over 4,000 children this last year and provided over 2,000, almost 2,600 consultations to child-serving agencies. So those are those community agencies like Head Start, Early Head Start, Child Care, etc. They provided a lot of training on social emotional development. One of the most popular trainings that they work with the child care and child serving agencies on is what's called Connect the Dots. This is a program that we developed in Kentucky that the staff then looks at, those, what are those things that you can do to help a child learn self-regulation and attention to those directives families and or a teacher in a classroom provide to them. And it's one that's very popular. This last year, we also, our staff, worked with child care to a great degree in collaboration with the Division of Child Care, which you're going to hear from here in a few minutes. But they provided what's called provider cafes. These are facilitated discussion groups that really focused on resilience and trauma, knowing that our child care providers out there really have had a tough time the last couple of years. The anxiety of could they keep their center open or do they have to close? Are they closing classrooms? Are they keeping classrooms open? Changes in regulations to keep children safe, as well as working with children who don't understand oftentimes what's happening in the bigger world, but it affects them. And so these were very popular. They worked with over 6,000 early care and education staff in the child cares to help them build some resilience and to help them understand working with children who have been traumatized by such a, in some cases, chaotic schedule. Because we know children like a nice routine schedule. It helps them learn that self-regulation. We also provide training on specific evidence-based practices and programs that are commonly used with this age group. Probably the one is the newest one is conscious discipline. This is a program that looks at how to work with children to learn those behaviors that we want to encourage and build upon, and what it takes as the adult, the teacher, working with the children for that end result. This conscious discipline has been endorsed by Head Start and is used frequently in Head Start programs. The other program that we have that's funded with tobacco monies are the child care health consultation. Used to be called Healthy Start, and some of you may have remembered that name. This really is focusing on supporting child care, and they work exclusively with child care providers. They provide consultation, technical assistance, and training on health, safety, and nutrition for those centers who have children birth to 5. We have trained healthcare consultants regionally through the state. They work with the health coaches in the Child Care Aware program, and they also work with the Kentucky All-Stars program to assist child care centers improve so that they are able to either earn higher stars, to address deficiencies that may have been found in a regulatory visit, on licensure, and really looking at how they work as a team to build quality child care. But their focus is on health, safety, and nutrition. They have been very, very busy people. There's not as many of them as there are in HANDS and in early childhood mental health. So they were really pushed to the brink. The pandemic really hit our child care centers hard, and they were there to support them. They did a lot of the contact tracing with cases that broke out in various centers. They worked with the centers on how to meet the new regulations for safety and mitigating the COVID. They were working on those things, so they really didn't keep data traditionally as they would of how many trainings, how many people did they work with, etc. What we looked at was our first quarter data for FY23, and it shows that we've got trainings back on its track. We had 1,700 child care staff participating in trainings, and they've been doing about almost 500, if you're really gracious on that, consultations on health, safety, and nutrition. So they're getting back to the job they did prior to the pandemic. I think childcare is one of those fields where there is a tremendous change and transformation that has been occurring over the years. This program has to keep up with that and has to figure out what's the niche. Do we still have a niche? And how do we work to maximize those dollars with new players? At the beginning, you didn't have health coaches out working with child care centers. That's been a new piece that's been added over time. And so as we look to going to the future, I think this is one of our programs that we really need to sit back and think about what's going to be the best use to stretch these dollars and yet still meet the goals that were envisioned for this particular program and helping childcare meet those health and safety standards and keep our children safe and healthy. Any questions?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. On your slide about hands, it says funding sources, master tobacco, Medicaid. It says tobacco funds are used for Medicaid match.
Right.
What is that amount?
We get $7 million in the tobacco funds. It's matched kind of 2/3. So we get out of that $7 million, we get $21 million.
Okay, so you're responsible for the state match, and
Yes.
then you are the recipient of the federal money.
Correct.
Okay. And then I also agree with you on the child care health consultation, because it seems to be what your mission goals are stated up top are not what you are listing as your accomplishments. And so it does seem that there's a disconnect between the goals and what you're listing as accomplishments. So how do you plan to go about revamping that? And then it looks like there's $900,000 in that. What does that projection look like?
What we're thinking of is bringing in the players, the stakeholders, to do some targeted focus groups about what is the role, what is this, how does this really work, knowing that we now have these other things in place that weren't there before. We know that they got sidetracked tremendously through the pandemic, but that, knock on wood, is over, so that we can move forward and think about how do we work. We don't want to duplicate the work that the health coaches are doing. We don't want to do unnecessary work. So what's really the thing that child care providers need in order to meet the standards that we have set in Kentucky for health and safety in their licensure, in the All-Stars program, and what's going to be the best vehicle to get there? Is it wise to think about having regional people? So we're investing money in that, or is there another way of meeting those goals through another entity? Do we look at possibly expanding child care aware in some way, that these funds feed into that for a particular, to meet those goals, and how does that overlay? Or is there a whole nother way of looking at this that we could use? Is it better to have a centralized technical assistance center with a couple of staff who can go out as needed? Because it's not a daily thing, it's not a daily job, but when there's a need, there's a need.
Sure.
And how do we set that up? So I think we're really looking at kind of the blank slate and our best projections, given input from our stakeholders as to what is it we need tomorrow and 5 years from now and on out from there.
One follow-up, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Okay, so that particular budget item is $900,000. So as you're going through this revision of what that is, what are you doing with the $900,000?
Right now, that $900,000 covers 2 staff people at the department. We run a Help Me Grow program, which is a developmental surveillance program that comes through that funding as well, and is working with some child care on that, so the child care centers can do developmental surveillance. We also use those funds to help support Kentucky Strengthening Families. And again, Kentucky Strengthening Families is an initiative that looks at those protective factors that families and children need in order to thrive. And so people in child-serving agencies, such as child care, really have a piece of that, looking at how do they support resilience and how do they support child development and social development in that population that they're serving. So they do have a piece of that. That initiative doesn't cost us a lot because it's really a groundswell, but we do offer some trainings, we offer some supports to communities that have embraced Kentucky Strengthening Families.
Yeah, and the reason for my interest is because, as you know, child care is huge. If we're going to get Kentuckians back to work, this is a very critical piece of that puzzle. And so the conversations are ongoing about how, first of all, where are the resources within state government? And then how are they being utilized? And so I would encourage you, maybe we can follow up to participate in that ongoing conversation, because the dollars are limited. And so we can't, whenever we expend those dollars, I think they really need to be targeted and best used to get the best child care that we can so that we can get people back to work.
Absolutely. And I would certainly support that. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Senator Adams, because I think Senator Adams is exactly right. The biggest obstacle to getting people back to work is child care. I might ask Paula, how many, in the entirety, how many carry forward dollars did you all have for 22 to 23?
Well, you're asking me a stumper.
That's okay. You don't have to tell me today, and I didn't really expect you to. But if you could
certainly
present
find
that back to the committee here,
Yes.
To the staff, so that they can get out the committee, so that we know how much carry forward dollars that you all had.
Okay, I'd be glad to do that.
Because I think it's a sizable amount.
Yeah, and it probably is, given what the past couple of years have been.
Yes. So if you could provide that back to staff, and they could distribute it to members next month.
Okay, be
I'd
glad to
appreciate
do
it.
that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Paula. We appreciate it. Your next presenter is.
Well, let me have one last slide, and then we'll bring up Elizabeth.
Okay, we need to
hurry along.
expedite it a little bit.
Okay. You also provide funding for oral health, $900,000 for that, and the way they use their money. That is this section. Oral health is not in my branch. It's in a different one. So the information they provided to me was that they had 33 health departments were supported with tobacco funds. They used the increased funding to health departments in FY22 to offset costs not covered by Medicaid. They provided 11,000 services, which was an increase over FY21. And they provided 4 training sessions to public health nurses in FY21. Right now, they have 8 trainings scheduled for the public health nurses as they resume clinical capacity. Again, coming out and building up to where they were prior to the pandemic. And Elizabeth? You just me wrap up? Okay. If you have a question, I'm going to call on Elizabeth. All right. The lung cancer screening program is new funding. It was in the early childhood section of the bill, but again, not in my branch, and that's why I had asked Elizabeth to come. But really, this is to increase the number of lung cancer screenings in the state, because we want to reduce that morbidity and the mortality of lung cancer and reduce the cost of treating lung cancer. The bill does call for a lung cancer screening program advisory committee that is to review the data, the clinical guidelines, best practices, provide recommendations, and provide oversight for lung cancer screening, public awareness, outreach, and education. This committee is, and then they will report that to the legislature. This program is new. They are building this program as we speak. The airplane is being built to get this, and how they're going to use the funds directly and how they will move it forward. So, any questions? Elizabeth is here that she could expand on.
Thank you, Paula. Any questions for Elizabeth or Paula? If not, thank you, Paula, for being here today. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Andrea, are you going to do the next presentation? Okay.
Okay, you get her set up.
Andrea, I might remind you that the members all have a copy of your presentations, as sort of an overview of, so we don't run too far over on time.
Okay, thank you. My name is Andrea Day. I am the current director for the Division of Child Care within the Department for Community-Based Services. Here is a pie chart, if you will, of how we have spent our tobacco settlement dollars. As you can see, the majority of that does go towards quality initiatives in child care. The biggest funding source for child care is from the Child Care and Development Block Grant. That grant is designed to promote success for children, employment for parents, and economic security. The overarching goals of CCDF is to protect the health and safety of children in child care, to help parents make informed consumer choices and access information to support child development, to provide equal access to stable, high-quality care for low-income children, and to enhance the quality of child care and the early childhood workforce. The CCDF funds support the following initiatives. As you can see here, whenever I pulled these numbers, or initially, we were serving over 16,000 families, 28,000 children. That number has been growing with a lot of initiatives that we have put in place at the Division of Child Care with expanded eligibility. When I looked at the report this morning before I came, we're up to 20,000 families and 35,000 children being served by our Child Care Assistance Program. We have about 2,000 child care centers and family child care homes at any given time. We also support professional development and background checks to make sure that the teachers in the classroom are prepared and that they are safe to be with children. And then we also have some special initiatives around infant and toddler care, disaster preparedness, and consumer education. And we do use tobacco dollars as the required matching funds for CCDF for us to pull those federal dollars down. I would like to talk to you about All Stars. That's our quality rating and improvement system. And you may think, well, what is that? So it's a system that helps parents to understand the level of quality in child care, preschool, and school-age care programs. And it's designed to help parents compare different programs using similar standards. That way it's more apples to apples, if you will. Child care programs who participate in All Stars demonstrate a commitment to family and community engagement, classroom instruction, staff qualifications, professional development, and then leadership practices. Here is a breakdown of our providers across the state. Certified providers are small in-home providers providing care in their own home. Licensed Type 1 centers are your larger center-based care. Licensed Type 2 are smaller centers that provide care for no more than 12 children. And here you can see how those all are rated according to the domains I listed on the previous slide. So what does high quality look like? Quality childcare means a program is safe, healthy, caring, and an educational place for young children to learn and grow. Studies show children in high-quality early learning programs develop better math, language, and social skills, and children who receive high-quality care have improved thinking skills, better attention skills, enhanced academic performance, better relationships with peers, and they have a greater chance of finishing school. So your high-quality child care, again, is they're healthy and safe. They have low child-to-adult ratio. That way there's more attention for each child. They have trained and experienced teachers. There's strong parental and family involvement, as well as planned curriculum and developmental assessments throughout the year, as well as language-rich classrooms. Tobacco settlement funds help support several professional development activities over the year. As you can see here, the numbers for the Child Development Associate, we gave 139 scholarships, 200 for the Commonwealth, 204 for the mini grants, 148 for the Milestone Achievement Awards, and 87 education reimbursement grants. How does Kentucky stand out when it comes to what we're doing in child care, especially with the tobacco dollars? We have a professional development registry called ECE TRIS that we partner with the Eastern Kentucky University on. So anyone that works in a child care setting has to have so many hours of professional development a year. And this is a way for them to track those trainings and those directors to track, but it also allows them to kind of have a professional portfolio that they can take from job to show where their concentration has been. We also have integrated systems to support quality through not only the work of state staff, but also with our partnerships with the University of Kentucky and Child Care Aware, the Staffed Family Child Care Network, which is focused on recruiting family child care across the state. We're one of the first states to stand up a staff family child care network, and we've gotten a lot of attention for that. And we're a year in, and we're slowly seeing an increase. And that just helps us to leverage all those contracts. And as Senator Adams, you were mentioning earlier about, resources are limited. So we are trying to be very mindful at the cabinet of what are all those resources, how can we avoid duplication of efforts, and how can we all remain consistent with sharing the information to our families and our providers to make childcare successful and to maximize the benefit of those dollars. I know I kind of went through it fast, but I was trying to stay on track.
That's good.
So do you have any questions?
Have some questions? Senator Adams.
Just real quick, and thank you for the presentation. So I'm going through, what is the total amount of tobacco settlement funds that you all get?
Last year, it was $9,283,787.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's reflected on page
Yes.
1. So, and then so just help me understand what I'm looking at. So if it's 9.2 plus change, then on page 2, the CCDF fund, the last sentence on that says tobacco dollars serve as the entirety of the required matching funds.
Right.
So that total is 154.2 million and change. So is the expenditure of the 9.2 like actually putting those dollars to work, or are they just matching dollars?
No,
that
it's actually putting it to work. They are the match, but all of those funds are directed towards quality and the quality work that we do.
Okay, now help me understand this. If the matching dollars go to quality, is that consistent with the mission of the tobacco settlement funds? Is that what they were intended to do originally under this agreement?
I am going to be totally honest. That predates me, and I don't know.
Okay.
I will be just totally transparent there, but I can get back to you with that information.
That'd be great. I'd
Yes.
like to know if this is consistent with what the agreement originally was. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Adams. Senator Webb.
Since I was here and helped negotiate the agreement, I'll try to chime in.
How long have you been here?
Just don't call me mom, okay? I've been here a while, but it was my first job actually. Before I was elected, they called me in to help with that. The Attorney General did, and then kind of was a voice of rural America. But a lot of states, or a lot of different state models, as you know, and some states used all their money for health care and cessation and all those purposes. We like to think we've got the best model internationally because it's been copied, and we divvied it up to where producers to transition away from tobacco on the ag side and create the funds that we heard about earlier, but not to neglect the health aspect of the creation of the litigation and the distribution of the funds. So I think this is kind of a compromise, if you will, to recognize why the lawsuits were brought really in the first place, and then to mitigate smoking for health purposes, especially with our youth because they were targeted, and still have money 20 years later, which some states don't, for ag diversification and development. So that I think it's a compromise, and it is the original intent of the original litigation. The states were free to do with the money as they wanted, and we had a rough and tumble battle to get the House Bill 611, but it's worked pretty well. So yes, it's with the spirit and intent of the original litigation, and the state recognized that in the creation of House Bill 611.
Thank you. Thank you for the history lesson. Remind me of Senator Carroll. Any other questions? Andrea, thank you very much for being here today and that explanation and everything, and look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
Co-Chair Dossett, have you got anything you need to bring up today?
I think I'm fine.
Our next meeting is going to be December 19th at 1 o'clock, and we're going to get an update on the cancer research with Senator Adams. That is one of the main focuses of this part of the fund. That is one of their main focuses, so that will be interesting. Any other comments? If not, I've chaired my last meeting as a senator. Thank you, and we're adjourned.